So many of these diets are ass. So many. I've been on so many of these different diets, right? And there's only a select few that actually work. In terms of getting to your desired body, you've got this sort of this conflict of interest where the minute you have optimized for your gym performance and bodybuilding and getting in the best shape possible, you just take a detriment to the brain fog and the lack of clarity and the lack of focus and your ability to sit down when you do work. And so there's a lot of different ways and combinations. And the first one I'm going to get into is actually intermittent fasting. Now, I'm actually a big fan of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to the back first and foremost. Intermittent fasting is amazing because it means that the hours that you wake up, you basically go to sleep. When you wake up, you're in a fasted state, so you've got no carbs in your immediate system. Carbs, the effects of carbs last in your system for 3 days. So whatever you thought about, oh yeah, carbs, they'll hit me and I'll feel brain foggy for like half an hour, 3 hours. It's, it lasts for 3 days. And so you don't know how sick you are until you actually go on a cleanse, until you actually go on like carnivore, or you fast for 3 days, or you go keto, or you go no carb, basically no carbs, sub 20 carbs, sub 10 carbs, zero carbs if you can. Until you go 3 days without any carbs, you actually don't know the effect that carbs have on you. I'm just gonna lay it out there. So whatever you misconceptions or connotations you have about if I eat carbs, X then Y happens, you don't know. Not fully, anyways. And so what I say with the caveat here is intermittent fasting. It gets you in the most fasted state, in the least brain foggy state on the days that you do eat carbs. And so if you're on a diet that has carbs every day, which is pretty much everyone on this planet, then intermittent fast is a great way to at least have some of the focus effects before your brain fog ruins everything in the day. And so for that reason, I'll put it in S tier. Straight up amazing. I would never have a meal and then do my deep work block. Or I would never, unless you're really running out of time. But if that's the case, then your sleep's the detriment and you're not able to wake up on time. So that's a different issue. But assuming that you had all the time, the word intermittent fast, do your deep work block, then move on to whatever else. That's absolutely fine. But for the most part, bang, intermittent fast. Basically, just do that, no questions asked. The worst diet you can do, on the other hand, is this guy here who's got no diet. I don't understand how some of you guys can move, go to the gym, lift your weights, try and excel at business and entrepreneurship, and not have a diet. Like, you just eat whatever your mum gives you, or you don't even make an attempt to cook for yourself, or you don't even make an attempt to track what you're doing or really dial it in. I'm gonna put it like this: if you want to get results, you gotta put in the right inputs. There's a famous saying: be patient with the inputs. No, be patient with the outputs, impatient with the inputs. And so when it comes to the inputs, that's what you're putting into your body. That's the things you're putting into the business. The output is the money and the returns and the investment and the audience and getting viral and stuff. But when it comes to the inputs and what you put into the business and what you put into your diet as well, you have to be impatient. You have to just keep dialing it in as much as possible to get the best results. And that's why, if you're just going off of feelings, if you're just going off of vibes, you've never actually tracked your macros, you've never actually done this, that, or the other, you're wasting your time, and everyone else's, to be honest. No one, I'm not going to invest my money in someone who isn't dialed in the gym and someone who isn't disciplined enough to figure out what the fuck they're eating. All right, it's as simple as that. And I don't think you should invest into anyone who's fat, anyone who's too skinny, anyone who isn't in a decent bit of shape, because clearly he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And the way he's going about his diet is probably the way he's going about his business. Now, on the other end, you've got these guys who go way overboard and do this whole meal prep thing. Damn, is this not gonna? Let me just send it all the way to the back. There we are. Yeah, so there's guys who go overboard with it. And they do the whole meal prep thing. And for some guys, it works. For me, to be honest, even cooking that much every week is a pain. It's so much better than the guys who are doing like no diet, so they're eating the worst diets. But if you're eating a clean diet and you're meal prepping, I find that after the third day, you just absolutely hate the meal. So, is it that nice? I mean, I want to optimize here for performance and for joy, because I feel like if you enjoy the life that you're living, you'll be way more sustainable, and in a weird way, you'll make more returns in the long term compared to the guy who's meal prepping, but by the third meal, it's just like brain refrigerate for 4 days. He eats it. It's a bit mid because he ruined the formula the second time round. And so I'll honestly put it in D tier. Yeah, I've never been able to stick to a meal prep. These are just my personal opinion. I've never been able to stick to a meal prep. I'd rather cook up a meal that takes 5 seconds to make. You know what I mean? Instead of like having all these containers and half the time it's plastics, you get microplastics or whatever in there, so you fucking shooting yourself in the foot anyways. But for the most part, a lot of guys, like, I don't know someone who enjoys their meal prep. I'm gonna put it like that. I'm gonna be straight up. On the other hand, you've got this boy kid. Why don't this? It always goes to the back. I'm trying to send this to the very back of things. It's not. God, everything else works, don't it? It don't. Why can't? Oh my days. This one. Can I not lock it? There we go. We got. I fixed it. I fixed it. I got a little spot there. Can you see? But anyways, yeah, I don't know a single guy who enjoys meal prep. And so on the other hand, you've got boy kibble. I think boy kibble's great. I love boy kibble. I eat boy kibble every day. And here's the crazy part, right? I'll put it in A tier actually because it can get like the volume that some of us put into our little boy kibble. That's when you get like you just focus straight on sustenance, straight on the macros, straight on like does this hit my protein? And I love it because you cook it in like 5 minutes. Obviously, you get all the macros that you need. Obviously, so when it comes to like going low carb or when it comes to fueling it before workout, you get the exact macros in because you can just know it. First time you do, you can just eyeball it every time since then. But I wouldn't put it in S tier because sometimes the volume gets too much. And the weird thing is, I actually enjoy eating boy kibble more than meal prep itself. In a weird way, it actually works out better. And so I'd put it in A tier because you can make it in 5 minutes. And so what it means is you can dedicate as least possible time to eating and consuming and as much possible time in performing, in lifting, in working on your business. It just frees up the time. And that's really what we're after here when we're trying to buy time in these things. Then we got the guys who eat whole foods. Now these are the sort of the health maxer guys. These are the guys that, they're trying to they arrange to the front. There we are. Grab all of these, position to the front. And yeah, there we go. Damn, this little tier listings really throwing me off. You can tell this is my first time. But yeah, you've got these guys who eat the whole meal, the health maxers, the guys on, they do they're the guys who are trying to geomog and the weirdos who are trying to, they all look like they got the skeleton, the e-boy frame, the chiseled jawlines and stuff like that. And they eat really clean food. And they all have like mid physiques, if I'm being honest. Like they're not jacked. They're not too happy as well. I'm yet to meet one that's actually smiling and stuff. I actually did this. I actually did ate only the whole foods. I just had a ton of steak, eggs, fruits, honey, sweet potatoes. Like it was just whole foods, and I was just so mellow all the time. But you're not happy when you're on this diet. I don't think anyone is. I tried this diet. I was just going through the motions of life. Like, yeah, I was able to work on my business. I was able to go to the gym without feeling too flat, but it wasn't sustainable in the long term. And the reason for that was because it just wasn't enjoyable. I feel like it drained the joy out of my soul just going on this diet. And there's actually nothing wrong with this diet, but I feel like a lot of my happiness comes from performing well in the gym, which is carbs. There's no two ways about that. I'll show you a way to go about that actually later, but and doing well in my business. But if I'm not able to turn up as my best self, it just wasn't nice. It just wasn't nice, and I feel like it's very overrated. But it is very healthy, so I'll put it in the detail with it. I think actually these guys can go on this. I'll keep them there. One meal a day. I think that's straight. I think that's amazing. I'll put it in the B tier. And the reason I say that is because you very much it's basically the same as intermittent fasting. The only caveat is you have one meal a day, OMAD, and the idea is that you get all your macros, all your calories, everything in that one meal. That's obviously very difficult. I think for smaller guys, it's really like it's okay, it's maintainable, it makes sense. But the only times I find myself doing one meal a day is when I physically run out of time to eat. Like when I physically don't have the time to be eating and stuff. Where my first meal comes at like 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Then I'm like, okay, it's too around 9 to 10. It's like too late to have another meal, so I just kind of just hold the L on that. But I can't make gains. I can't retain muscle mass if I do one meal a day, because one meal a day fitting 200 grams of protein is just too much to ask for. I'll be so honest. Another same thing when on the other end of things is when you try and get all your macros in by just gallon, like I think it's called GOMAD. Which just have as much milk as you can, they just straight liquid calories. You're just gonna get bloated. You're just gonna get bloated. You're just gonna hate life. You're just gonna be like them retards in the gym. I don't even think you'll get a good performance in the gym because you'll be so bloated from all of it. And the majority of us are lactose intolerant as well, so there's actually no point down in the gallons of milk. I don't know why you guys do that. To be honest, you something wrong in your head, and you're doing it for a trend. Don't do it for a trend. Do it for the long term. Keto, keto's pretty good. Keto, I put it in the C tier. It's good. It's got its props. I ran it for like I think it was like a month and a half. But again, very similar to the Whole Foods guys, I just lost the joy of life. Like I just hated the diet. Everyone who's next to me just heard keto, keto, keto. I'm on keto every single second of the day. They were getting pissed off by it, and so I can only imagine that. I mean, it's you do get a lot of work done, and the mental clarity that you have. Yeah, let's say you intermittent fasted, the level of clarity and the level of focus and the level of flow state that you would have achieved doing that in the 8 hours, you would have felt that around the clock on keto. So I gotta give it its flowers there, but it's definitely not sustainable. You hate yourself, and everyone hates you when you go outside and you eat. Every conversation is about keto. Your whole life revolves around just carbs and the lack of, and just straight like I want fats and protein. And then you realize every day is, if you thought the question of what are we eating for dinner was rough, imagine what are we eating for dinner on keto. There's nothing. You're just having tins of sardine and tuna cans, no barely any mayonnaise on it as well, just to get through it. Like you get a lot of work done. I'll give it its praises. You get a lot of work done. You stay very focused, but I feel like it's just part of that. You do like it's part of the, in terms of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rules of stuff. Going on keto is like the 80% of extra work you have to do for the 20% of marginal gains. It's like the other end of what you really want to get. So I wouldn't go for it in terms of that. What I would go for, and the only time I would recommend going on keto or carnivore, its closer cousin or whatever, is if you were able to have multiple steaks a day. If you can have 4 steaks a day, just have a steak a day for every meal that you have, you'll be the most productive guy on the planet. Straight up, the most productive guy on the planet. I don't think people understand the difference that it is being on keto versus being on carnivore versus being on like 4 steaks a day. At that point, the intermittent fast doesn't matter because you'll be fasted around the clock. Your ketones are burning. It's just straight. I really come to grips with noticing the difference that the ketones have on my brain's performance and its clarity, and just the level of joy and stuff that I feel compared to just when it's fueled by carbs and glucose, and it's significant. I think everyone should give keto a try at the very least. Carnivore, I think everyone should as well, but run it for a week. It gets pretty spendy after a while. And alongside that, if you want to egg max as well and just have a ton of eggs, bro, what I tell people, people never execute on this, and I want you to execute on it as well, man. So if you can, by all means, have 4 eggs a day for the rest of your life. Don't even question it. Just have 4 eggs a day for the rest of your life. That's, and you'll be set. I personally, I aim between 8 to 12. To be honest, 12 is pretty hard for me right now. My stomach's quite small. I'm on a cut, but I have about 8 to 10 eggs a day, consistently around the clock, every day, all day. And I think it's amazing for your testosterone, for your performance, for your happiness as well. But a lot of people forget that, when you have more testosterone and free testosterone in your body, you just feel like such a happier, more alive, energetic, living person with a purpose and a desire to achieve things. And so I think that's very much slept on. So if you can have steaks a day and eggs, that's all you need. Very different to the Whole Foods guys. Very different to these Lux Maxing dudes, because they'll have the honey, they'll have the blueberries, they'll have the banana, they'll have the fruits and stuff that come with it, which is very healthy. But I just don't find it fun. But I don't get the same effect when I'm on just straight steaks and eggs. I don't get that at all, which is very interesting. I don't know what it is. I think it's like a halfway house that just deserves on both the protein and fat side, and also on the carb side, it's not really a good fuel source. But on the other hand, I mean, yeah, you have the guys that dirty bulk. I don't actually think dirty bulking is bad. I'll put it in F tier because in terms of getting business done as well, you'll just be horrible. But in terms of the gym, you'll definitely make progress. You won't get leaner. Lean is low. And you'll also end up being the fat guy in your business meetings, so don't dirty bulk for too long. But I'll be wrong to say that I didn't dirty bulk for like a good year and a half. But the caveat with that was that I did so much cardio. I did like 10 kilometers on the bike every day, just like as my transport. And so the caveat there was that, I could afford to, in a sense, because outside of the dirty bulk and the dirty meals I'd eat very clean and very minimal and very sort of low calories. So it was almost like the dirty bulk brought me back to baseline, and it just meant that I had more carbs and fats than I anticipated, which at the time was fine because I was burning so much fuel. But generally speaking, once you've got everything down, but once you get a bit older, you also start to move less, which isn't a good thing. I think we should all do a bit more cardio, especially when you're locked in on the season of business. You just go to the gym as a bit of a break, a bit of a 2-3 hour block, and then you eat, and then you go back to more of the shallow tasks that you're doing. So if you're doing a routine where you want to optimize for business, not just the gym, then I wouldn't do a dirty bulk. I'd very much like restrict myself on that. And if anything, it'll make the seasons that you go in like pure enjoyment, and the season you go on holidays and you meet your friends like after like months, it makes it so much more enjoyable, and you remember those so much more, and the food becomes so much nicer. So I think definitely keep it for the special days. And a special shout out here, salt. Pink Himalayan salt, Salt Max. I don't care what anyone says about your cholesterol, about your blood pressure. If you got medical conditions, get out of this video because you couldn't be saved. But if you got salt, put that everywhere. Salt max, salt to the max is what I'd say. To the moon and back. All you need to do is just salt. All right. Remember that. Remember that. Because that is a bad boy thing. Just turn your brain off. Have a ton of salt, especially when you wake up, especially before you go to the gym, especially when you're an hour before you go to sleep. You'll wake up with no headaches. You'll have gnarly pumps like when you first started in the gym, and you'll go to sleep better. And your sleep quality will be better. So I'd actually supplement salt as like over whey protein even. I'd make it that impactful. I think whey protein is a bit of a scam nowadays, if I'm being honest, all the nitrates and little things. But salt is very much slept on. And the reason I feel like it hasn't had this like mainstream movement towards it is simply because it's so cheap and abundant that you can't market it to be like an expensive product. Everyone knows what salt costs. Everyone knows what salt is. You can't market it to be more than what it is, unlike whey protein, unlike creatine, which has huge surges. But everyone in the planet has salt, and so you can't market. And I feel like for that reason, it hasn't been given the praise that it's due. But definitely, definitely, salt is a big one, man. Salt is a big one. Take on board the advice that I gave you in this video. You'll excel at business and you'll get jacked at the same time. It's possible to do both. I'm living proof of it. I'm in the best shape of my life. I think I'm 82 kilos now. I bulked up to 87. I got a bit fat. I'm not gonna lie. I did a bit of this. I did a bit of uh yeah, I just did the wrong things. But I got to 87, which is 190 pounds. I started off at 125 pounds, so 57 kilos back when I was 17 in sixth form in college. But now I'm like 4 or 5 years in, and I'm going on my first cut. And it's been the perfect time for me to really lock in on business as I've been doing it. So, yeah, it's been an amazing journey, man. Take on board. The ideal day for you, honestly, intermittent fast in the morning. If you can afford steaks, go for the steaks. If not, go for the 8 eggs a day. Try and be in a ketogenic state throughout the day, but then carb cycle and have your carbs around your workout times. So if I was to draw this out here, you'd wake up and you'd have this deep work block where you wouldn't eat at all. Then you'd have this meal here, 4 eggs, a bit something else, right? You might do a bit more work, a bit here and there. And then you might go to the gym. Before you go to the gym, have your carbs. I don't know why. Yeah, but have your carbs after the gym, before the gym, after the gym, and then you might do a bit of work, shallow work, logistics, stuff like that, and then after that, just stay in keto, and that's all you need. That's all you need. But yeah, I do a private community where we turn entrepreneurs into jacked entrepreneurs. We help people break into the online business space. It's fucking amazing. But yeah, join it, man. See you around.